You ever buy one of those compilations of old games? You know, those collections of arcade games or games that were from consoles generations ago to see how our ancestors lived? Well, since I was a Sonic fan, I would usually buy these Sega collections to play old Sonic games, and I would try some of those non-Sonic games while I was there anyway. One game I would always have fun with was the Shinobi games. I don't know a lot about these games, only that the main character is named Joe Musashi, which is an amazing name, and that they were side-scrolling action platformers that feature a special guest appearance by Spider-Man. That is real. I thought that these games ended in the late 90s after that whole Sega Saturn thing.
話は一部始終聞かせてもらった。この女はもらっていくぞ。
I knew it got a revival on the 3DS, and it seems to be coming back along with other abandoned Sega titles. But what I didn't know was that it got a reboot in 2002 on the PlayStation 2 with Shinobi 2002, which I really have to stress because there are 4 games simply titled Shinobi. Thanks, Sega. Anyways, I wasn't just interested because it was a game I never heard of. I was interested because when I looked it up, anything I found about this game was people complaining about how hard the game is, critics talking about how hard the game is, stories of gamers demanding refunds because of how hard the game is, so naturally I decided to play it. My goals for this game are to beat the game on the hardest available difficulty while obtaining all the collectibles in the game. More on that later. So I started the game and... Jesus Christ. Adjusted the volume. So I try to go into these games as blind as possible, but I still want to know what I'm getting into, and for me to do the goals I have, I'll need to beat this game at least 3 times, because in order to unlock the next difficulty, you have to beat it on whatever the hardest one you have, which for now is normal, and then we get hard, then super hard. I started the game, and the intro cutscene saw 2 brothers, Hotsuma and Moritsune, about to have some kind of duel, and let me tell you, this game has some voice acting.
This is the way it must be done.
This is ridiculous!
We don't know the relationship between these two yet, and we don't even see the end of the duel because it cuts to 4 years later. Man, it's just getting to the best part, I think. So after cutting to the future, we learn that in the past, 30 days ago, a huge earthquake struck Tokyo, and now some old man has erected a golden palace in the center of it, and creatures called Hellspawn are roaming around being meanies. An old guy seems to be working with a mysterious individual in a mask. Who could it be? Okay, so that's the guy we were fighting at the intro. I'm calling that now. I think that's pretty obvious. But now the only one who can save the day is Hotsuma, a ninja of the Oboro clan, who comes to kick some ass and do awkward fight choreography. Also, apparently the entire Oboro clan was wiped out off-screen, and Hotsuma is the only survivor, so that's why we're alone. And it's implied all the ninjas we fight are dead Oboro clan members brought back to life. Finally, we begin the first level. So this is what's called a hack-and-slash action platformer, similar to games like Devil May Cry. Before I could even play the game, though, I ran into a disastrous problem. No one could have predicted it. It almost forced me to stop this entire project before it even started. It was that bad. Oh god, the camera's inverted. Can I change that? I don't think so. Oh god, that's gonna fuck me up. Yes, the game's camera is inverted by default. If you don't know what that means, it means you move the joystick that controls the camera left, it pans right. You go down, it pans up, and vice versa. Now there are people that play inverted, and they are psychopaths. I'm not one of them. And no, I checked, you can't change it in the options. Despite this awful design choice, I pushed on, and I know nothing about this game, so I was just smashing objects looking for items while beating some enemies. Messing around, I found you can cling to walls, kinda like that other ninja. Whenever you find enemies, these weird orbs appear at the top right of the screen, showing how many are left. I had no idea what these actually meant. At first I thought it meant I had to kill every enemy at the same time, but thankfully nope. Then for some reason Hotsuma would sometimes do a cool pose and the game would freeze. I also had no idea what this meant. Like, what is the purpose of this mechanic, and well, who cares, as long as I can progress that, it's probably not important. So the controls besides the camera are pretty standard. You have an attack, a jump, a dodge/dash, kunai/shuriken. Then the shoulder buttons mostly were for the camera and locking on to enemies, but L2 used ninjutsu, which was a big bomb move that did a lot of damage. The only controls I changed were dash and jump to circle and X respectively. That felt more natural to me. So yeah, level 1 was not that big a deal, nothing really to say about it. Did some jumps, fought some tanks, the usual for a ninja. The only thing I needed to figure out was, well, the collectibles. I knew about them, but I didn't know what they looked like. So before moving on, I tried finding one, and I did, an Oboro coin. This is the main and only collectible I needed to find. But for my first playthrough, this was not a priority. For this first run, I was just focusing on beating the game, and when I had to replay it on harder difficulties, I was going to collect everything. Knowing I had to beat this multiple times, this one was just to get used to the game. I then came to the first boss, which was a helicopter. This was not a good sign. If you want any sign of laziness in a video game, it's making your first boss a helicopter. Being the first boss, he was really easy, took him down with no trouble. Then another cutscene where we meet that girl from the intro, who we learn is named Agiha, and we find out she left the Oboro clan years ago for some reason, along with more quality voice acting.
Kobushi-sama told me what happened. I guess the Oboro village truly was destroyed.
You left the Oboro clan. These are not the affairs of a rogue ninja.
The Oboro are dead! You are the leader of nothing!
Their deaths shall be avenged by my blade. I do not need your help.
These deaths shall be avenged by my blade. At the end of each stage, we get a ranking, which thankfully tells me how many coins are in each stage. That's more than most games give me. Also, as far as ranking is concerned, I will not be going for the max and S rank on these stages since they don't matter for completion and you don't unlock anything for doing them as far as I know, so not my problem. Before the next stage, another cutscene shows Hotsumo won that duel at the start and he, I guess, killed Moritsune, and we get this special sword called akujiki. Then we begin stage 1B. Yeah, the game is structured by every stage having 2 parts essentially. It was here I found out what kunais did. They stun enemies straight up. That seems kinda broken, and yes, it works on bosses. I then saw some of the Oboro coins in this stage were out in the open, which I was fine with. The more I get now, it saves me time later. But yeah, besides introducing flying enemies, this stage was also nothing, even ended kind of abruptly. The next boss was that guy who definitely is a different guy than Moritsune. They look nothing alike. He was easy thanks to me using that ninjutsu button, which lets loose this huge explosion that does a ton of damage to him. In the cutscene after that, our sword, Akujiki, tastes mysterious white hair's blood, and that means it's awakened. Whatever that means. For stage 2, we see the budget of the game go down as we get a super flashback to when Hotsumo, Moritsune, and Agiha were kids, told through illustrations. It barely lasts 30 seconds. Then in the present, Agiha gives us some actual useful information.
The souls
These
of people
titties.
are made up of evil and good, yin
What?
and yang. Yin is the collection of all the hatred and pain that people feel inside. Akujiki has consumed the yin of men since ancient times. If left unfed, Akujiki will eat away at its wielder's soul.
So what the hell did any of that mean? Well, it means a new mechanic. As of now, near our health, we have an akujiki meter that goes down automatically. Once it goes all the way down, I start slowly losing health. The only way to keep it up is to kill enemies and absorb their yang. It's essentially a way for the devs to keep you from skipping enemies since there's no reason to fight them. But I did not and will not know of this mechanic for some time, as at this point, it didn't really stop me from skipping enemies or affect me at all, so I honestly didn't even notice. And yeah, again, I beat stage 2A with no trouble. We then get 2 bosses in the next fight, these 2 jobbers. I think that every human boss we fight in this game is supposed to be a member of the Oboro clan, brought back from the dead, to whatever. Now this was the first actual difficult thing I came across. The girl is super fast, running around, slicing you up, while the guy stands in one place, swinging a chain, which stuns you. Not to mention this happens in every boss after a while, enemies spawn, you have to fight too, which is because, I guess, to fill that Akujiki meter? I don't know. But yeah, these 2 destroyed me. I got my first game over and died a few more times here. Thankfully when you die, there's no lives or continues or anything, you just restart at the boss as much as you want. The only penalty is you lose any bomb scrolls you picked up in that level, which is fine. Eventually my strategy was to focus on the big guy who stood still and whittled down his health, then take out the woman, and with a little luck, I managed to do it on my 4th try. And then it just ends, and we're on to stage 2B. Alright. Now look, it's only stage 4 technically, but I gotta admit, I don't see the big deal. I heard this game was hard, but so far I was cruising through it, and I had 0 issues. I mean, at a certain point I just kind of started autopiloting and accidentally fell down a hole. That's when I found out no matter where you die in a stage, you can be right at the end. You restart from the very beginning of the stage. Now this also did not affect me, because as I played the stage again, this is where I started skipping enemies and realizing the stages are actually pretty short when you don't stop to fight everything, so once again I was unfazed. Most stages can be beaten in like 2 minutes. At the end of the stage we find our master and Agiha again and save them from another helicopter. Are you kidding me? This one was tougher, not just because it's on fire, but also it took more hits. The difficulty is starting to ramp up slowly.
Iruko summoned the Golden Palace and caused the earthquake in Tokyo. He tried to cover the world in darkness by performing a cursed ritual. He was stopped by the Oboro clan and was sealed in this very...
As you can see, I am heavily invested in the story. Basically, the big bad guy was sealed away but got awakened somehow, so to reseal him we have to find some shrine maiden to get her to put him back in the hole. Now stage 3A... Okay. As I've said, the game for me so far has been fine, no problems. But stage 3A takes the difficulty meter and spikes it right at my ass. Mainly due to one thing. Ninja dogs, of course. These guys you can't attack from the front because they auto-deflect any attack. Okay, so you just have to get behind them. Too bad they move around like, well, dogs, so they can be difficult to land any attack on them. And even if you hit them from the side sometimes, it'll still hit that part where it deflects your attack. And when they are in a group, good luck, as there is no post-hit invincibility in this game, so enemies can continue attacking you, essentially stun-locking you. Now this was a huge problem for me, because so far, I've been autopiloting, kind of relaxing, and now, I had to actually start paying attention and trying with these new enemies. Life sucks. Not to mention, this stage had a bunch of traps you had to avoid, and tanks that do a lot of damage if they hit you. And it was pretty lengthy, honestly. Not super long, but it took a while. I can honestly say, even writing this now, Stage 3A is probably the hardest in the whole game on your first playthrough. And okay, I can see why people say this game is hard. They probably made it to this stage and quit. But I'm no quitter, except for all those times I gave up, but not today, and I managed to get through it after several attempts in 20 minutes. But now we had the boss, and guess which enemy spawned with this one? Now this boss, this old guy, seemed impossible to me. Basically, you hit him once and then he teleports away and then is able to heal himself fully. It's like, what the fuck, and I do so little damage it never mattered? After trying for about 10 minutes, I found out hitting him from the side did the most damage, so I had to react to him teleporting fast enough so I can hit him before he healed and finish him off with my only bomb. Now I can tell this is not the intended way to beat him, I was clearly missing something, but for now I decided to continue. Stage 3B was way easier because there were not enemies that ran around the screen and auto-parried your attacks. The gimmick in this one was a bunch of spiderwebs on the ground that slowed you down, and that was it. I beat it first try. The boss was this giant spider with a tiger's head, and again, I don't think I beat him the intended way, as I used bombs and just kind of attacked him, which did barely any damage until I killed him before I died from akujiki. Clearly I was missing something, and again I ignored it and continued on. I managed to find that shrine maiden and oh, it's the girl. Okay. What the fuck even happened in that cutscene? Well, I guess something took her to this burning town on stage 4A. So I haven't talked about it yet, and hopefully you've been listening to it. If there's one thing I really like in this game, it's the music. Especially in this stage, it's a banger. Oh. Okay. Of course. Alright. Also, I gotta admit, so far in this game, I'm not having a bad time. In fact, I dare say I'm having fun. Like, it's not an amazing game, but for an early-ish PS2 hack-and-slash game that was released a little after Devil May Cry 1 and before Devil May Cry 3, I think it's good. Combat's pretty satisfying, the platforming controls are good, any jump I feel like I messed up, it's not the game's fault. And like I said, the music was great. Even the graphics for the time are pretty good. Yeah, it's got some problems with the story and voice acting, but that kinda adds to the charm. I'm honestly surprised. I wasn't expecting to dislike this game going in, but it was a mid-2000s gritty reboot of an old-school franchise, and normally those don't have a good track record. And today, I wouldn't recommend anyone really play this, but for the time it was made in, not bad in my opinion. Again, 4A was no problem with no dogs, and now I'm fighting this fire guy. Like the old man, he teleports around the arena when he gets hit, but he doesn't heal. Instead, he shoots at you from a distance. I did die a couple times, but after a while, and figuring out I deal more damage when I hit him in the back, I managed to get the dub. Stage 4B was again pretty easy. Look, there's not much to say about these stages. The only goal is to make it to the end, and I'm mostly skipping enemies and getting the occasional overworld coin. Not much is really happening. Besides, each stage introduces a new enemy at most, and none of them hold a candle to the real demons, because you can just kind of mash and kill them. On this level, I did discover that if you double jump and hit the shuriken button, you do this AoE attack that hits everyone around you, which I would start using way later. It's not important now. I made it to the end and found that shrine maiden who was taken by this honestly perverted moth lady.
What a lovely body she has. If it wasn't for Hiroko-sama's orders, I would claim her body as my own.
That's a
Perhaps if
very
I
inappropriate
give you
comment,
your head
miss.
as a gift.
And like the last several bosses, I once again came to the conclusion I was missing something, as I only beat this chick thanks to attrition by slowly whittling away at her health before akujiki killed me, because I was ignoring the enemies that spawned. Hotsubo manages to save the shrine girl as the moth lady blows herself up trying to kill us, but we escape. This is where I ended day 1 and picked back up a few days later. We find out this girl is Kagari, and she has the special ability to only speak in exposition.
My name is Kagari Ubasuna. I am the heir to the Ubasuna family. It was my duty to keep Hiroko's spirit sealed within the temple walls. But
Where is Hiroko?
he's trying to rebuild Yatsurao, who was defeated by the Oboro long ago.
Yatsurao.
It is a weapon powered by the spirits of people killed in the earthquakes that have stricken Tokyo since times of old. And to reactivate Yatsurao, I was to be sacrificed.
I love those when the character is getting cut off, but nothing really cuts them off, they just stop speaking mid-sentence. Then right when we got her, she gets kidnapped again. Oh, great, she's one of those characters. Despite it being a few days since I played, I still got it. I can see other people, like you casual, saying this is one of the harder stages since you fall in the water, it's an instant game over and you have to restart the level. But if you take your time, you'll be fine. I only died like once or twice. Stages are all still pretty easy. Then we fight the guy who took Kagari, this bold ninja. This fight was actually kind of fun. He was easy, but what made it hard was all the enemies that spawned would constantly shoot at you, so you had to dodge and manage the amount of them on screen while still trying to fight the boss. I liked it, having so much to manage kept me from just button mashing. Again, I don't think this was the intended way, but it was fun. We saved Kagari, and then she asked us to kill her for some reason. Whatever gets you off, lady. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, like I said, this has been a few days, and I forgot everything about the story, and I didn't really care. And then, surprisingly, Stage 5B is just a boss fight against this snake fox guy. He's another teleports every time he gets hit kind of boss, and I did so little damage, and he would summon all these snakes a lot, which I had to deal with. Honestly, I was stuck here. I had no idea how to beat this one, until something weird happened.
Oh, wait, what? Wait, what? How do I do that? I don't... what?
So yeah, finally, it clicked. I had noticed that sometimes during stages I would do more damage than normal to either bosses or enemies, but I never really thought about it, until now. So here's how it works, and yes, it has to do with my balls. When enemies show up, you get those balls, and after every kill, one lights up. But also your attacks do more damage depending on how many you have lit up. So the reason the enemies spawn during a boss fight is so you can power up akujiki and deal huge damage in one strike. Also, that cutscene would play when you would get 4 or more enemies killed at the same time, and basically it gave you more akujiki juice. Now armed with this new knowledge, the rest of this playthrough was not affected much, it just made bosses easier, I guess. Stage 6 was great because it gave some variety to the aesthetic. Instead of just traditional Japanese locations, we get a futuristic facility. Oh yeah, we're here to save What's-Her-Face because she got kidnapped again, of course. Another thing I like about the stage is it focuses more on verticality, which made getting through it more fun, even though I died a lot from trying to rush through it. Also, again, the music is a banger and really fits the stage. Seriously, no track has missed yet to me. Maybe the boss fight music, but that's mainly because it's the same for everyone, and I've gotten sick of it. Speaking of, after beating the stage, I met this quiet man.
I cannot allow you to pass.
What?
Master, please turn.
Wait, what? That's not just me, is it?
I cannot let you interfere.
Dude, the voice just like... is... Could you speak up?
And he was the next boss, who was more annoying than anything. The second you touch the ground, he just bombards you with projectiles, so you have to stay on the walls and time your attacks to get him. Which, you know, now that I actually know how to play the game, I feel like this would have been harder if I had to do multiple hits instead of like 2 or 3 now that I know this mechanic. And nor is that shown more than in Stage 6B, which, again, like 5B, is just a boss, no stage. Just watch what happens.
Ah. Wow, okay, so bosses are mad. Okay.
Yeah, bosses are kind of a joke now that I actually know how to play the game. After that, we save Maiden and bad guy makes himself young again. That's when that mysterious ninja shows up, and we find out he's Moritsune, our dead brother? Nani? Or at least I think he's our brother. Honestly, rewatching these cutscenes for writing this video, I still am not really following along. I don't really care. Well, now we gotta set things right and put our brother down for good this time. Stage 7A is, I think, the home of the Oboro clan, if I'm following the story right. You know the drill, skip enemies, beat the stage easily. We then run into Agiha again. It tells us she's the one who broke the seal to resurrect the old man. Why? Because she loves Moritsune, I think, and wanted to bring him back because she found out the ceremony we did wasn't to pick the next leader of the clan like we were told, but just to feed Akujiki some delicious souls. So yeah, to bring back one guy, she started the apocalypse and killed the entire clan that raised her as a child. What a great person. Anyways, now we gotta fight her. Her thing is she's super fast and constantly dodges when you try to attack. Again, it took me a while, but I eventually managed to beat her. She escapes to old young guy who was about to finish the ritual to revive Moritsune, but Nani the fuck? The evil demon man was lying and intended to kill Agiha all along and use Moritsune's body as a puppet for a powerful demon? I am shocked. So yes, the next boss is Moritsune, and I think he was easier than intended. I didn't really do anything special, I just ran around the arena until enemies spawned, powered up Akujiki, and killed him in like 2 hits. Okay. After killing him, for the second time, we find out Moritsune's soul has always been an akujiki, and he tells Hotsuma to go kick that old dude in the dick for him. So now with only Hotsuma left, and I think Shrine Maiden is still alive somewhere, we make it to the Golden Palace, the final stage of the game. Now this stage really tests your platforming skills with tricky wall jumps and large spacing between jumps where you gotta get to the absolute edge. Luckily you can skip pretty much every enemy here, so getting back didn't take long, which is good because I died quite a lot at this one spot where I had to make this really tight jump to get an Oboro coin. Shit sucked. At the end, there isn't even a boss, just a door you gotta hit a few times. So now we are at stage 8B, the last stage in the game. Now this stage isn't hard, it's just frustrating. There's a difference. I consider something hard when no matter how much I try to claim it's the game's fault, it comes down to how I control the character and can read enemy patterns, etc. You know, it's the name of the show. Frustration comes from elements of the game design that you just can't control. See, this level is long, the longest one in the game, because there are a lot of moments where you have to stop and fight a lot of enemies before you can move on. So, when you die, which I did a lot thanks to some shitty jumps, you have to start all over, and I think on average the stage takes about 10 minutes to get through if you know what you're doing. So yeah, the frustration came more from me dying after just going through a gauntlet and then having to go through it again. It was really annoying. But after trying for quite a while, I did manage to get through it. So now we are at the last boss, whatever this guy's name was, and I'm not kidding. I'm not using any hyperbole or any over-the-top YouTuber language when I say this is the most unfair, drawn-out, and random last bosses I have ever faced in a video game. I am dead serious. So first off, the beginning of the match is waiting. Yes, you cannot hit him and he has no health bar, you just whack at him eventually until the real fight starts, so you eventually have to wait a full minute or two every time you die to start the actual boss fight again. It even fully heals you before it, so what is even then the actual fight? You might as well turn off the game and go win the lottery, try to get that SSR Summer variant, because you're going to have an easier time doing both at the same time while trying to get struck by lightning than getting one hit on this boss. Any regular attack does nothing, so forget attrition. The only way is to hit all the enemies charging Akujiki and hitting him. Okay. And from what I can tell, even charging it as much as you can, it'll take about 3 or 4 hits. And okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Problem is, there are a couple barriers you gotta get through before you can even attempt to hit him. Some are no big deal, like the boss's attacks can be avoided very easily. He is actually no threat to you. He does have this one move where he teleports to you and does this dance that deals quite a lot of damage, but if you know the pattern, you can jump over it. Then the enemies are these talismans with eyes that shoot at you, and they can stunlock you if there are too much on the screen. The part that sucks about them the most, though, is their hurt box. It is so thin because they're so thin, and it's really hard to hit them sometimes. But you can dodge the attacks. You can learn where to hit the enemies. What you can't do is hit the boss whenever he feels like it. Because it doesn't matter how much you charge or how well you play, he will fuck you. Basically, 3 things happen when you try to go hit him. 1, he teleports away so you can't hit him. B, he uses an attack and during that attack he becomes invulnerable so you can't hit him. Or Delta, the most frustrating, he just deflects your attack. For no reason. I'm not kidding, he will just deflect it. Even though he's just standing there, you will go into attack and sometimes it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work sometimes. I looked it up, there's no pattern to it if he'll do this, no visual cue or verbal cue. You just have to go in for an attack and hope he doesn't deflect it or do other things. That is some ass. The only time when a hit is guaranteed I found is when he's in the air, he doesn't do the deflect move there, so you can hit him if he doesn't do one of the first 2 things. Wait, look at this. Now, I fought some hard bosses before, but most of the time, there's a pattern, a sequence to read, so it comes down to your reactions and skill. Here, it does not matter how well you play, how much you predict, how much you dodge, because when you actually try to hit him, it's basically a coin flip. This is not a boss, it's a slot machine. No, slot machines are arguably more fair. This is the real test of endurance. When you miss or he deflects an attack, all you can do is run around, collect the health of the defeated enemies, and wait. Just wait until more spawn so you can roll the dice again. This boss, no joke, took me over 1 hour of trying. An entire 1/6 of my playthrough was just fighting the final boss. And again, it wasn't because I was dying, I did sometimes, but it was mostly just trying to hit him. It took me that long. Yeah, I can very confidently say this is the worst final boss I've ever faced in a video game. I didn't even feel accomplishment when I beat him or relief, just apathy. Because I didn't win due to my skills, I just got lucky. So yeah, Hotsuma saves the day, I don't care about the story after that, especially because remember, now I have to beat this game 2 more times on harder difficulties. Oh boy! Before that, let's explain the Oboro coins and how they work. So every stage besides the ones that are just bosses have at least one coin in them. They are hidden in various places and are usually obtained by doing some kind of platforming challenge. What they do is mostly unlock artwork in a gallery and some extra stuff I'll talk about later. There are 50 total in the game, but you may notice after I beat it the first time, the result screen only showed 24. Well, that's because one more coin is added to each level in the next difficulty. So, with 2 more difficulties, each adding 1 coin to 13 levels, add to 24, get 50. Got it? So with that, now my goal was to not only beat the game 2 more times, but find all the coins as I do it. And you're probably expecting this is the part of the video where I tell you to beat this game on harder difficulties. I had to level up, go on a training arc, awaken my hidden power to overcome the trials that are before me, but that didn't happen. Surprisingly, I had an easier time on the harder difficulties than on my first playthrough. The first time took me 6 hours, my second playthrough on hard, even when finding the collectibles, took me 4.5. So, what happened? Well, normally a harder mode in the game makes it harder by making enemies stronger, they take more damage, you take more damage, health pickups and other resources are scarce, sometimes enemies and bosses get new attacks. None of that happened here. It's the exact same game. Same enemies, bosses, stage layout, even the collectibles are in the same spots, and everything does and takes the same amount of damage. So, what is harder about this hard mode? Well, as far as I can tell, your akujiki meter depletes slightly faster. That's it. Which doesn't make the game harder in my opinion, it just kind of slows you down slightly, as now you really can't run past every enemy, but you don't really have to fight all of them still either. I played the same way I did in the normal difficulty, the only difference is I stopped when I needed to kill some enemies, and moved on. How is this more difficult? I died more from trying to get some of the Oboro coins since some of the placements were kind of tricky. Some were placed in spots that actually taught me a new trick, that after hitting an enemy in the air when locked on, if you dash automatically to the next one, and you can repeat that. It's super fun, like a more fun version of Sonic's homing attack. I know that's blasphemy, but it's true. But yeah, surprisingly not much to say on my hard mode playthrough, it was honestly uneventful. So what do these coins unlock specifically? Well, every 10 gets something different. The first 20 are extras like art and movies, like the game's E3 trailer. This was before YouTube, okay? This was a cool extra. But at 30 coins, you get a new character. Yes, you can play through the game as multiple characters, the first one being Moritsune. He plays the same as Hotsuma, at least from what I can tell, but with one key difference. He deals more damage. But the trade-off is his akujiki meter goes down faster. That seems to be the only downside the devs thought of. And honestly, more damage for just a slightly faster akujiki meter was good enough for me. I mean, harder difficulties are already doing that, so I decided to beat the game on the hardest difficulty, super hard, with Moritsune. And yeah, I was right, I killed things so fast, the faster meter meant nothing to me. And again, beat the game in about 4.5 hours. And I managed to collect all the coins. It was honestly not difficult. I even got my first and only S rank on one of these super hard stages. I will say, after playing through this game 3 times now, I think the final boss isn't the worst part. Okay, he is the worst part of this whole game. But now I know about charging my akujiki, all the bosses are kind of lame now, as now I just kind of sit there dodging their easily dodgeable attacks until enemies spawn so I can kill them. I liked it more when I was not aware of this mechanic and brute forcing the bosses while dodging. It was more fun. But yeah, that's it. I completed the game in about 15 hours, so what do you get for it? Well, nothing for beating the game on super hard, that's just for bragging rights, and to get the coins, so what do we get for those? Well, getting 40, you get to play as Joe Musashi, the original protagonist from the OG Shinobi games. That's cool. His thing is he has no akujiki meter, so you don't have to worry about that, and he has infinite kunai weapons, but the trade-off is the kunai don't stun enemies. It's a cool reward if you're a fan of the series, and if that time limit did keep you from getting all the coins while playing the levels on the harder difficulties, you can just use Joe since you don't have it and there's a stage select, so you don't have to replay the whole game to get them. Finally, for getting every coin, you unlock Ninja VR missions, hard challenges that test your skills, and despite the name of this show, I did not do these. Because my goal was to complete this game, and I know for some people they have different stipulations for completion. For me, I don't do things in games unless it unlocks something, like art, a movie, a character, even an achievement or trophy. Or it's fun, and I want to do it. As far as I know, these stages are just bragging rights, so I consider this game complete, because giving up is my ninja way. I know it was anticlimactic, I expected to spend way longer on the harder difficulties, but sometimes that's the way the ninja seppukus. Overall, if it weren't for the last boss, I would say this game was a great PS2 hidden gem, but that makes it okay. I mean, hey, the game has interested me enough that maybe I'll even play the sequel someday. Yes, this game got a sequel. Like, comment, subscribe.
Raised by the savages, know you couldn't handle this. Everyone who battled me, they falling like an avalanche.